Alright, so now I'd like to introduce the two more important attributes to the fluids, that is the velocity as well as the turbulence. Well, in this case, the velocity is absolutely crucial as well as universal. We're going to have the velocity in each and every module of our fluids, because it's the velocity that will going to drive the motion of the fluids. So being a technical speed with xyz vectors and a magnitude, here the velocity will going to play an important role with respect to the swirl, and I would like to begin with a high value of the swirl, let's say 6 to the 8, because it will really going to add a very interesting vorticities inside the motion of this thick smoke, and without this it would be really very hard to achieve the exactly, we could say, the realistic behavior of the thick smoke effect. So feel free to go ahead with the value of 6 to 8 only, and also be careful that you don't have to increase this value to super high, because it may could end up with a, you can say, the instability inside the fluids. And how are you going to judge that? You're going to see some kind of a bad horizontal patterns, and that is just because of the swirl values. Okay, and along with that we also do have a noise, which means the values of the velocity will also be get randomized. So the noise is also very important. I would like to go with value 1. If you've started feeling some jitteriness inside the fluids, or you could say a lot of small bumpy kind of details that would may look a little annoying, or let's say you may don't wish to have that, you may could bring down the value to a little zero point 0.5. Although I have tested with that, there is no problem along with that. But since in any of the reaction you would like to pursue, not necessary to be the thick smoke only, so in that case, if you are increasing the value of the noise, please be careful that do not exceed this value to a very high magnitude. All right, and of course we do not we do need to have the turbulence over here. So like to begin with a strength of, let's say, 0.35, and for the frequency let's go with the 0.5 and 0.5. So with that we are done with the overall, you can say, the simulation parameters of the thick smoke. And now we would like to tweak the overall shading. So here, as you can see, that let's just do one thing. Let's do one thing first of all. Let me just gonna hide this emitter for a while. Okay, and in case of the transparency, we'll first need to go to the display scene and like to go with, let's say, value of 0.65. okay, and we don't need to have the drop off. Okay, so just to improvise the, you can say, the overall behavior, I'm just dipping the color to a little yellowish. And now we have the interesting thing, that is opacity, so which is the overall look and feel of this fluids. And do notice that the opacity input is the density. So now we like to add some pretty nice graph to it, and that's pretty straightforward also. Since being a thick smoke, it will going to cover a lot of curvature inside the opacity sections, so we would be giving some higher values of the graph, and I think that would be perfect. So just be careful that you don't need to give somewhat value like this, and just leave some space over here, and that would be really good. So with that we are done with our process, and we can also give some input bias to, let's say, 0.1. And just to improve the overall look and feel of the fluids, we can enter into the another important attribute that is called as a lighting, and can just switch on the self shadow. What this attribute will going to do, that it will just going to add some better shading. So you may could start visualizing your fluids, and here you can see that we have a quite nice the shadow details, all of them. So that would be really really easy for you to figure this out. But as you can see that the way the smoke is being getting rise, and you can see there's a lot of dark shadows, everything is seems to quite good. But the problem is that we do not have the directionality. So I just want to have some better aesthetical movement of the smoke. So I just want that the smoke to be inclined towards the x positive axis. So if I don't do that, the smoke will consistently go up, and then it would end with a very regular fashion. Just like the way we have the wispy smoke, we introduce some turbulence field to alter the motion or the behavior of the simulation. So in a similar way, we do need to have some forces that will going to change the directionality of this smoke. So I cannot add a turbulence over here, but I can add some gravity. But in this case, the gravity will going to be changed by its original y-axis, and we will be providing some x positive value so that this motion of the smoke should get driven towards the right hand sections. So how are we going to do that? We simply need to select the fluid containers, need to go inside the field solver, and we can click over to the gravity. And over here we do have the direction set to the -1, so I can put that thing to 0, and it's going to be towards the x positive, so we can click it over here 1. Now the magnitude will going to play a lot of important role, since the magnitude is required to be quite high, so I guess value of 40 or let's say 35 should be pretty good. Okay, and now if we like to play the fluids for few frames only, then let's see. And I think so now the smoke has been just started, slowly. Yeah, there is a quite a change inside the motions. Okay, so I just do one thing. I would also like to increase the overall the magnitude, or sorry, the overall resolutions of this base resolution of this fluid container, let's say 130, and then I would like to get back to you in the next clip where I would be saving some play blast for you. Alright, so let's take a pause over here and would like to move to the next clip.